Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. I'm Conrad Som from Mockingbird, and I am devastated by the heartless, awful reporter from Reuters who unmasked the real name of the artist Banksy. Thank you so much for ruining the art version of Santa Claus for everyone.
How did they do that?
They actually went back and found old arrest records for someone who then changed his name to the most common name in Britain to continue to go undiscovered and put those together.
Got it. Well, I'm Gyi Sakalakis from Attorney Syndicate. I'm wearing my ABA Tech Show 2023 gear today because we should be in Chicago chatting with each other right now in person at ABA Tech Show 2026 if everything goes right.
And if you are desperate to get your technical marketing, legal product gizmo whoozy bang on Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, come find Gyi and myself because we will be there doing interviews. If you want to stop by as a lawyer and ask us a marketing question, we'll get that live on air as well. Come find us. And this may well populate the content for 2 segments from now.
Well, in addition to Tech Show, Conrad, what else do we have in store for our listeners today?
So as always, we are going to start with the news and I'm really excited about this, we're going to talk about a subtle shift in the Lunch Hour Legal Marketing podcast. And after that, we're going to Mailbag. We're going to answer 4 awesome questions submitted over social media.
Money makes the world go round.
Money makes the world go round.
Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, teaching you how to promote, market, and make fat stacks for your legal practice. Here on Legal Talk Network.
As always, Lunch Hour Legal Marketing podcast starts with the news.
In our first news item, Google brings personal intelligence to more people. They're expanding their personal intelligence technology to the US across AI mode in search and the Gemini app and Gemini in Chrome. And the short version here is that you can connect all of your Google Apps data to help get better responses from Google. And obviously, a lot of people are going to have questions about privacy. Is Google reading my emails? Is it reading my photos? And yada, yada, yada. And I think that those are all valid questions. But the takeaway for me here is this direction of, and I think they're all going in this direction, of more personalization, and this idea that there are universal responses to prompts is just not going to be a thing as we move forward at some point.
And continuing on in big tech, Anthropic just launched a big study about how people want AI to impact their lives. And I'm going to pull 2 of the quotes at the very top because they're fascinating. Quote number 1 was, "I got laid off from my job in May because my company wanted to replace me with an AI system." And quote number 2 that they brought up here was from a lawyer who said, "I use AI to review contracts, save time, and at the same time I fear, am I losing the ability to read by myself? Thinking was the last frontier." So they're trying to at least show a balanced perspective, but we will put the link to Anthropic's study on what people want out of AI in the show notes.
And what they really want is AI to help them write their LinkedIn posts about getting laid off because of AI. In other news, Google Maps is reimagining the Maps product with Gemini. A bunch of updates there, immersive navigation, maybe not relevant for your practice. But what they're really doing is that users can ask real world questions in conversation format about the businesses on Google Maps. And so if that's at the risk of stating the obvious, your next clients can ask your Google Places profile or Google Business Profile, Places profile, your Google Business Profile questions about your firm in real time and get generative answers in the map results. So I foresee that being a big change in user behavior over time.
And think about all of the different ways that that information is being fed, and there's a multiplicity of ways. I think that's going to be an interesting move for us tactically in 2026. And next, more big tech. OpenAI had an update. They introduced GPT 5.4, Minnow and Nano, which sounds to me very much like the brands of the Patagonia puffy jackets, the Micro and Nano puffs. But this is around making updates where speed and cost matter.
And most importantly, if you are here in Chicago listening to this podcast at McCormick Place, come on down to TECHSHOW and find me and Conrad at the Lunch Hour Legal Marketing booth. We would love to interview you. We love hearing from lawyers, legal marketers, and legal tech marketing folks. If you'd like the opportunity to be interviewed, come on down to the expo floor. We will be waiting.
Do we love talking to legal marketers?
We do.
Okay.
We do. We have a whole summit designed for them.
Make sure. Oh, you know what? That's fine. Sorry, you mean an in-house legal marketer?
Yes, sorry, in-house.
Okay.
I'll talk
I thought you meant people who were promising, criminal defense leads at $20 a pop.
I would love to talk to those people. But I'd also like you YouTube watchers to like and subscribe. Let's keep this conversation going. We're starting to see more comments on YouTube, which we really appreciate. And check out this other episode, BS you hear at legal conferences, not at TECHSHOW, but at other legal conferences, of course. Now let's take a break.
All right, everyone. Gyi and I are really excited to announce an evolution of the Lunch Hour Legal Marketing podcast. We've been kind of flirting with this concept for quite a while. We've had advertisers. The show is run by Legal Talk Network. That's not going to change. We've had advertisers, and you hear our ads on the regular. But starting in April, we're moving to a sponsored endorsement model instead of just the read advertisements. Whether it's us reading them or someone else reading something. So you're gonna start feeling this sponsored advertisement model. Gyi, can you share with our listeners why we've made this switch?
Well, I'll give you my kind of big picture perspective on this, LHLM ecosystem. And this ties into also the summit. But we want to amplify services, technology, people that both Conrad and I have had experience with, that are doing great work on behalf of lawyers and are aligned in a lot of different ways. And the truth is that when you come and listen, same thing when we listen to podcasts, but there's only so much you can do with just the paid ad spot in a podcast. And it's not that that's going away, but we just think that we will unlock so much more value, both for our sponsors and advertisers, but also for listeners and community members by going beyond just that regular ad read. And so seeing content, and of course, as always, because it's very important to us, we will disclose anytime that there's a sponsored or an ad placement. We're never going to try to disguise native content or sponsored content as native. But it's very important that we unlock more value and really help people understand why we're choosing some of these sponsors and partners that we do, and then highlighting what it is they actually do beyond just an ad read.
Yeah.
What do you think, Conrad?
Well, one of the things that we've done and I'm now patting ourselves on the back, is that we're very upfront, we're very honest, we call things out when we see it. There are a bunch of Legal Talk Network advertisers that probably don't fit with this show because they're not something that we would stand behind. And we want you guys to believe us when we're standing behind a product, believe us when we're talking well about a company or poorly about a company. It needs to be genuine. And so I'll use the most obvious example, Gyi. And this probably intellectually was the genesis of this move towards this sponsored endorsed model. We talk about CallRail on here all the time. CallRail is a product that all of my clients use. Gyi, I think all of your clients use. We may have a couple exceptions that came with some legacy technology, but it's something that we use. It's a company that we believe in. They continue to innovate. They're pushing things that are practical for their clients. And so it makes sense for us, instead of just talking about CallRail in a 20-second ad read, for us to go deeper on some of the ways that CallRail is awesome. And I want you to believe us so we can deliver more for CallRail and it can be more genuine coming from us, even though the model is a sponsored model. And so I'm really, really excited about this. I will tell you that in our contract for these sponsored endorsements, we literally have the words that say, if you start to abuse your client's trust in you as a vendor, we reserve the right to cancel the sponsorship, right? So like, it's really important to us that we're working with companies that do a great job for the legal industry. And that's why we made this move. And I'm super psyched. And also, thanks for LTN for supporting us in doing this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think again too, like part of this is you'd use the word evolution. It's Lunch Hour Legal Marketing's evolution beyond just the podcast. And I think
That's right.
Whether it's going to be short form social clips, additional video content, and of course the summit, it really gives an opportunity for us to highlight a lot of the partners and sponsors that are doing great things. And like Conrad said, to be able to like actually show you some of the ways that this stuff works instead of just being like, hey, try this product. Gyi and Conrad think it's pretty good. And, in a 10-second ad read. So looking forward to that.
You want to share our first 3 sponsors?
Sure. Well,
So
you already shared. Technically, is the ink signed? The ink signed. Paper?
The ink's not signed, but it will be.
The ink is not dry.
We're gonna
even
send
out
this
of
to
the pen yet.
CallRail. We'll send this to CallRail to get the ink dried. So
CallRail.
Yep.
Super excited and grateful to have Lawmatics on board. A company that I've disclosed in the past. I'm an investor and advisor to. I think Matt and his team are doing an awesome job over there, and so we are super grateful for their participation.
And one that we haven't talked much about on this show is Juvo Leads with Ted DeBetancourt. So looking forward to getting deeper into Juvo Leads and how they do their work. And the reason that we push Juvo very bluntly is because I have a lot of clients who really like it, right? It's that's where this is coming from. We want to find vendors who do a great job for their clients. And that's what this comes from.
And as part of this evolution, we will also be doing endorsed events. And that's an opportunity for show organizers and companies and trusted partners to use the Lunch Hour Legal Marketing community to help promote their show. And as our first example, Conrad, what do we got?
May 6th, we will be in Baltimore with Vista Consulting, Tim Mackey, who is bringing Chad Dudley and a bunch of PE people to come talk about how PE is impacting the legal industry. Now, when I talked to Tim about this, I said a lot of people have kind of in a knee-jerk fear and loathing and almost hatred of the private equity world. Tim told me that it is like gravity. You may hate it, but when you step off the building, you're still going to land on the ground. And so great opportunity to come. And if you're interested in the PE world, if you're interested in learning more about positioning your firm in a PE world, either to compete or as an acquisition target, May 6th, Baltimore, we will put the link for registration for that at lunchhourlegalmarketing.com.
And as part of this evolution, we will also be adding weekly segments to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. We'll include long professional segments as well as shorter off-the-cuff segments on weeks that you typically didn't expect to hear from Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. So stay tuned. Let's take a break. And we're back. And as you know, if you're a regular listener, we'd love to highlight reviews that we receive from listeners. And today we will be highlighting Willis Disability Lawyer, who wrote, "Invaluable, 5 stars. It is difficult to express how important LHLM has been to the growth of my practice. The advice given is invaluable, and I'm indebted to these guys." Wow. That is why we do this. Thank you so much. We love hearing your stories. We love hearing that we're helping. This is what motivates us. If you have a story that you're willing to share, please do leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, comment on Spotify, and hit us up on LinkedIn, where we love to interact with our community members.
Like I like clearly Gyi and I like hearing ourselves talk, but I'm glad that also involves being really, really helpful. And I've talked about this before. There's a nobility in being an entrepreneur in this country. It is a unique and wonderful thing. And if we get to play a really, really small part in your journey as entrepreneurs, like that's a win for me all day long.
100%. And speaking of valued community members, we're doing a mailbag segment. And as you know, we regularly ask listeners to submit questions, topics, ideas, and we've got a great list of questions for mailbag this week. And I'll start with Elise Bowie's question. Thank you, Elise. How to help marketing operators think like a CEO or owner, or go deeper more than leads? Conrad, why don't you take a crack at setting this one up?
I'll tell. So there's a couple things. I want to start with more leads. Your marketing person needs to have already been beyond more leads. And if they are really just at least, whether it's your in-house marketing person or frankly your agency, if we're still in the leads world, that's a problem. And I would never.
What's a lead mean to you, Conrad? What's a lead
phone call,
mean
form
to you?
fill, text, or chat, right?
So you interpret lead. That's slightly different to me.
Okay.
A form fill, call, text, or chat is a thing that happens. It's not necessarily even a lead.
I agree, but so and the reason I use leads in a very, very generous term, phone call, any form fill, any text, any chat. The problem is, and I do this very deliberately, most agencies count all of those things, regardless of whether or not that's the 7th time that phone number has called you, regardless of whether or not it's someone on Facebook sending you an inquiry to see naked pictures of themselves, right? Regardless of what that is, right? We like up and to the right, and we will count everything we possibly can. So I think it's actually important to understand that, like, yes, we have this big pool of leads, but then you get to the qualified leads. And in the SaaS world, that becomes a really big deal. Is this someone that actually has a thing that we might be able to solve? So it's not the 7th phone call from that person, which would be 7 leads, but it's actually those 7 phone calls turn into one qualified lead. And so you have the qualified leads. The problem is, historically, oh boy, we're going to take forever answering this question. The problem is, historically, leads have been reported as conversions in Google Analytics, and those conversions can easily be tied to an action on a website, right? Or the phone call through an integration with ding, 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 our endorsed sponsor, CallRail, right? And so those types of, that's why I like to talk about these as all leads. The qualified leads, yes, you have to do that qualification element, but even then, and so like I would label qualified leads as someone who actually has a legal need, whether or not that is someone that we actually want to work with. And I think the easiest way to measure that is, did this lead, phone call, form fill, text, or chat, turn into a consultation in some form or another, right? And that's where I kind of make the breakdown. And so my point is to answer Elise's question, have those conversations about consultations, however those happen, as opposed to the bigger number.
I'll even, in a self-indulgent pitch for Summit. This, and Elise was on our CEO panel last year in Vegas.
She was.
We're having the summit again. These things will come up. When I read this, I'm thinking, okay, the question is, how do we help marketing operators think like CEOs? And I think this is, and part of it is exactly what you said, right? It's the issue of distinguishing between qualified leads, clients, all that kind of stuff. But I would even go, I think that it's about helping the operators understand how the CEOs and law firm owners actually think about their businesses. And it might not have anything to do with leads at all, right? It might be things like revenue growth or profitability, and this is we talk about this. There's these silos between marketing and operations and finance, and the first step, in my opinion, to help operators understand more like how the CEO thinks, the CEO has got to go set that kind of stuff out and say, tell your team, this is how I think about these kind of things. This is what's keeping me up as a CEO and a law firm owner. And then let's set our strategy from that vision versus, a lot of times it's on its head where it's like, okay, the CMOs out there, like, I'm buying leads, I'm doing PPC, I've got an agency, we're doing some community stuff, but it's not really like it's not being deployed through the lens of the CEO mindset with those, scorecard metrics that relate much more to business. And so again, I think everything you said is still on point with it. To me, the answer though is to have these conversations for the owners of the firm, the leaders of the firm, especially in the CEO seat, whether they're working with a leadership team or they're working with their direct operators, to have those conversations to explain how they think about their business, define what success looks like from a business standpoint in the first place, and then let's go set our strategy, not vice versa.
I'll give a slightly different answer.
All right.
And I haven't seen this, but boy, oh boy, would I like to see this. Define where you want to go, whatever that might look like.
Right.
And then align your CMO, your in-house marketing, your lead marketing person's compensation bonus structure to yours.
There you
right?
go.
And we have not seen this. I asked this at the summit and no one has done this. I think it often happens with the COO. It doesn't happen at the CMO level or the lead marketing person level, where you are really thinking about where you want to go and how we're going to compensate this person. Now, I will suggest at Target, you should have something like a 60-40 split on that. And you should pay this out quarterly, because waiting for a year to get 40% of your compensation is a really terrible idea. So the other nuance that makes this difficult is if you're doing anything around brand building, anything that is not direct to consumer advertising, this needs to be an in-house marketing lead who has been there for a while and who's going to be there for a while. If you're going to align comp with what they with your objectives, because you presumably have a long-term objective. An employee doesn't necessarily have that. You want to find an employee with a long-term objective for your firm if you're going to make that switch.
I'll tell you something else we're going to be talking about this. Potentially, this could even be elevated at the summit. But one of the ways that firms are doing this is where, forget about private equity, but the firm is setting up its own MSO with key players in ownership positions of the MSO. So marketing in that MSO bucket, not in the law firm, but they have an ownership interest in the MSO.
By the way, I would love to get someone who's gotten deep in setting this up to talk as an Ignite talk, 5-minute talk on exactly this. If you're listening and you fit that role, please reach out to us. We'd love to have you talk about this. That's fascinating. Okay. That was
next one. I got another
question number one.
Yeah.
Oh, you got another idea for question number one?
I got another. No, I'm going to move on to question number two, but I'm jumping over. I'm reordering because I think this one's relevant, especially in the way that you answered the leads question. So this technically is not a question submitted to us, but I'm commandeering this question from our mutual friend, Rafe Palmer, who runs a mastermind of really smart, sophisticated, and growing family law firms. And he had very nice things to say about you, Conrad, as well. But a lot of familiar faces in this group. And one of the points that was the impetus for some of the conversation at the mastermind was that one of the members had, quote unquote, turned off PPC and had no net drop in leads. And then the question is, why? And of course the corollary that everybody jumps to is like, well, PPC isn't worth it and doesn't work anymore. But why don't we start with when you hear that, I turned off PPC and no net drop in leads, what do you think, Conrad?
Here's my knee jerk on this, and I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not. Janet here, who asked the question, I don't know if it was Janet, but we'll call it Janet. Janet works for a firm who has an agency that she outsources pay-per-click to. And that agency shows her great up and to the right graphs. They may or may not give Janet insight into what they're actually bidding on. And what they're actually bidding on and spending, I'm going to make this as worse as it can possibly be because I don't like marketing people. Janet's budget is $10,000 a month for pay-per-click advertising. And she sends that directly to her agency. right? And they make the spend, but Janet doesn't have any insight into, because there's a proprietary system that does all this bidding for you, and we can't let you see what we're doing, because otherwise we'd be showing you our secret sauce and or all the accounts of all of our other clients, which is a bunch of bullshit. What's actually happening is Janet's not spending $10,000 on PPC. She's spending $1,000 on PPC, and the vendor is pocketing the extra 9 along with their 20 to 50% ad management fee. And that $1,000 is still making her charts look good up and to the right, because they're counting every single phone call, form fill, text, or chat that comes in for Janet. They're counting every single one of those things. And they're already bidding on janetlawfirm.com and Janet's brand. And so the reason that Janet hasn't seen any perceptible drop in her inbound leads is because those people who were already looking for her were found a different way to find her that didn't include pay-per-click, while her agency sat on the beach in Kauai with a nice, soft drink.
Beautiful in Kauai. Everybody should take the
Not right
opportunity to
now,
go there.
actually.
And
It's rainy. It's the rainiest place in the world in February and May. February and
that's
March.
coming from somebody who knows rain, living in Seattle.
Yeah.
This is my reaction. And what you articulated could very well be the answer. I look at this and I'm like, look, number one, your data infrastructure is trash. You can't just tell me straight up that whether or not you got any direct response. I mean, okay, I'm gonna back up. Trying to be the shepherd, be more empathetic. I'm just reading the words. Turned off PPC, no net drop in leads. If we are talking about non-brand search ads, and you're bidding on, let's say divorce lawyer, because this is a family law firm, child custody lawyer. Either one of two things has happened. Well, maybe one of three things. Thing number one is whoever's running, thing number one could be your situation. They're not even spending money. Let's say they're spending money. They're either grossly, horribly bad at their job. Maybe trying to be generous. They haven't been running it long enough. Like maybe they ran it for like 10 hours.
They're bad at their job. Don't be generous.
No leads.
They're bad at their job.
All right. Maybe it's that. Two could be, gosh, I hate this. This is one, and we see this more than often than not. Maybe there's something broken in the pipes and the leads aren't getting through.
Oh, you mean like having a 404 page on your contact page? Directly
Something
from Google
like,
Business
where have you ever
profile?
seen that? Have you seen that before?
Stay tuned, everyone. We're going to be sharing that one sooner or later.
3, which gets me to what I think is probably the more likely thing, is that there's some data infrastructure issue because you're unable to see any difference. Like there's no attribute. You're not doing any direct response, quantitative attribution to PPC. I mean, you can set it up so for anybody who's actually following that journey, you can track that, right? And that was the thing that I kept coming back to is like, and again, we're limiting this to non-brand paid search ads. Could it be that the firm didn't have enough reviews to be competitive, and so that their search ads just didn't look? Maybe it was their local pack ads or LSAs or something. When I see this, what it screams at me is a data infrastructure problem. Certainly could be unethical marketers, certainly could be a lot of sketchiness, but I mean, honestly, like if you can't tell the difference between if you're running PPC and you're not saying, hey, we're doing attribution to these direct response non-brand PPC, paid search leads, you got a big problem.
So you nailed it when you said your reporting infrastructure is trash, because Janet here is looking at all of her leads as a bundle and not carving out. We talk about this all the time. Pay-per-click, non-branded pay-per-click is direct response. LSAs are direct response. And what that means is someone has a need, they search for the solution to that need, and they hire you. You shouldn't, the question should have been, we had 27 leads. We signed 27 clients from pay-per-click last month, and those haven't gone, and they've been replaced by something else. That's a
right.
But you should know. You should be starting with, for direct response, LSAs, pay-per-click, and anything else that is direct response. You need to be starting with, this is how much business we generated from this investment last month because it is direct response. And you're right. the question unveils that they're reporting his infrastructure is trash because they aren't carving that out. And they're just looking at their one big bucket. You're right.
All right, that's it. We're out.
Ha. We got two more. Frank Rikas, who kindly sent in the pronunciation for his name, which is Reek Us. I was going to say Rakus because I didn't want to say Reek, but okay. Frank Rikas asks, how about the top 3 trends in legal marketing that will increase visibility? Gyi, you get one while I think of number 2.
You know, I was going to take issue with the question because when I see increased visibility, I think of awareness. And I'm like, I don't care. How about the top 3 legal trends that will help us meet our growth goals? Or how about the top 3 the trends in legal marketing that will help us, reduce cost per client or position ourselves against a national player or a million other things like increased visibility? Like how do you interpret increased visibility? I mean, look, I'm an SEO person. You want to talk about how to rank better in AI search?
And get more traffic from Guatemala.
Right. Let the bots take all the filters off your bots.
Well,
that's not fair.
While Gyi is trashing the question, I'm going to try and answer it in the spirit in which I think it was asked, which is really about growing one's business. I think I'm going to make that assumption. So I'm going to give you 2 things. Number 1 is you're going to be spending more money. Like we are monetizing, not we. Everyone is monetizing everything they possibly can at this point in time. And so I think that is, it may not be a popular answer, but that is the advertising model is going to become much larger. Number 2, when we just talked about this, we need to go away from that we've tracked every lead and we know where every lead is coming from and we can calculate cost per lead for everything down to an individual marketing channel. And this is very, very data-driven and analytical and scientific. We are going back full circle to I know 50% of my marketing is wasted. I just don't know which 50%. That is the direction that we're headed. And the people who understand that, and we call this the BFA, the big fucking average, when you just look at all of the non-direct response stuff and that comes in, all of the goodness that comes in and all of the goodness that comes out of that, and the costs for generating that is a unscientific, unprecise, and yet the most accurate and useful way to actually look at those marketing elements. So I think abandoning this need to nail every single lead or consultation or client down to an individual marketing channel with individual dollars associated to it is important. And finally, and Gyi and I have been talking about this ad nauseum for years, the people who win local, actual local, boots on the ground local, virtual local, like being very, very local, I still believe there is room for those people to win and exist because no one else is doing it. And everyone else has the I'm a lawyer and I win lots of money and look how big I am model. There you go. There's 3. That's 3 from Conrad.
Those are great. 2 of my 3 overlap heavily with yours. My first one is integrated approach. If you're, every time someone calls us and they're like, I want PPC or I want SEO, I'm walking them off the edge because this stuff all works better in concert. Direct response plus brand, digital and in person, like it is, and having a data infrastructure that can help inform, maybe not, maybe we are losing. And there's always been limitations to attribution. That's the other thing too that's so funny is a lot of people out there are like, attribution's broken. It's like, it's always been broken. It's always had limits. It depends on, your implementation. Of course, it depends on your tech stack, but it also depends on your intake process. Are you asking people how they heard about you? Asking who you thank for the referral? But when you get a more holistic picture of that, it becomes so clear that the integrated approach just works a lot better. So that'd be trend number 1. Number 2 is the big one that, Conrad finished with this. This would be, I think, if you're doing nothing else, like this is where I'd be focused. Unless you're like, you're trying to dominate your market and incremental share, and you're really trying to compete for that incremental market share, double down on local. doubled down on the organizations, the affinity groups, the being in the community, the analog marketing. In fact, that was my third is analog, but I'll just blend it together with this, with local. Forgive me if you're a francophone, but plus que change, plus c'est la même chose. That means, do you know what that means, Conrad?
I love you. It sounds like you sneezed.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. And so the old school local tactics, the analog tactics, I'll plug the show again. Jay Ruane's coming. He's talking analog. Those trends, not by themselves, with support of digital, the lines are blurred, but leaning into that kind of stuff. And when you compare dollars spent, the cost to acquire from a non-brand direct response search lead versus the investment that you make from something in your local community, and if you have the data structure and you have the patience to track it, you will see those touch points show up in your CRM from your local community, from those activities, those investments you're making in local. And I would double down on that, because to me, that's the only way left if you're not trying to compete on advertising dollars.
You want to do a wrap
Last
up? 'Cause
question.
You did them so well. You want to do the last
We got
question?
one question.
All right.
Last question.
All right. Last question. Go ahead.
Well, we got to get, yes. And in fact, you won't, because we're going to do office hours tomorrow, so they won't have heard this. But if you're listening to this now, go to our YouTube channel and check out last week's office hours, because we're going to answer more of Kurt London's questions. But Kurt asks us, what conferences are we planning on attending this year? Conrad, where are you going / lunch hour legal marketing beyond TECHSHOW, where we are right now?
So you will find us. It's interesting. I spend a lot of time and money and flight time going to conferences over the last 2 years. The pay to speak model is getting out of control. You guys should all know that there are agencies, Conrad included, that are spending over $30,000 for 30 to 60 minute talks. That starts to become insane. And we saw this get out of control when a couple of agencies were purchased by private equity, and seemingly without thinking, just putting money to get those people on stage. And certainly some of the content that came out of that was garbage, which is why we created our own summit. So we'll be at our own summit. I think, Gyi, we might tease. I know I said this year, but I'll say the next 12 months. We may well have a twice a year Lunch Hour Legal Marketing Summit, which I think would be really, really cool. And so we'll have our own summit. We're going to be at Best Era. Both of us are going to be at PILMA. Come see us. Find us at PILMA. If you're a personal injury lawyer, come find us. I'm doing a brand new talk at PILMA called The Budget of an 8-Figure Firm. So we're going to go over the tactics and budgets of an 8-figure firm. And exactly what Gyi says, omni-channel, everything. Like, we're doing everything. I'm also doing the Iowa State Bar. Thanks to Tim Selmaroth for bringing me back to the Iowa State Bar. And we'll see. We'll see where else we're at. Where are you going to be?
I will be at the ones that you named. I will very likely, I for sure will be at CleoCon. And I will also likely be at 8am's Kaleidoscope. And I think it's very likely that we will be back at Lex Summit with Filevine. This fall. Otherwise, we should give another shout to Vista for their event. We'll both be at that on May 6th.
May 6th. If you're in Baltimore and want to talk about PE. And actually, I'll take this opportunity. I started this with, like, a lot of you guys have a negative taste on private equity. If you want us to put some questions to some of the private equity people at the Vista event, please contact me and Gyi, and we will not pull any punches.
And we would love to hear what conferences you're going to. What conferences do you love that we're missing out that Lunch Hour Legal Marketing should be covering? Let us know that also. And with that, we are out of time. We cannot answer any more questions. We are so grateful for your time and attention. We look forward to connecting with you. If you're new here, please do subscribe, comment, hit us up with show ideas and topic suggestions. We love hearing from you. Until next time, Conrad and Gyi for Lunch Hour Legal Marketing.
Money makes a it makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go